Martial arts can be terrifying. When I go to a new martial arts classroom, I am potentially in a room full of strangers. These strangers, during practice, are going to be in situations where there's almost no space between us. And we are going to be potentially working on submission holds, which are also an element of fear. Having a stranger in positions where we are incredibly vulnerable and we are doing these practices with repetition. After these sessions, there might be a rolling segment to a particular class. Our rolling is a live scenario where we practice what the class was about in a situation where there's resistance between you and your partner. You are trying to stop them pursuing their goal and instead insert your own goal into the equation. And this can be very difficult for a new person to grasp. The culmination of these factors can be the reason why a new student comes only to a class once and then never comes back. So these are things that we are trying to evaluate that a new student might experience. We are trying to get into their headspace and see what they think. Now, it's also important that we have been here before and as we attend our own new classes and we have these experiences once more ourselves, being a new student. Some things I can't do anything about as an instructor. One of those would be the proximity between you and your partner. The positions that we go through will involve a lack of space. And that's just the nature of the martial art we are practicing. One factor that I can impact is how this live session is carried about. So, my new students might not be comfortable doing a rolling exercise without much in the way of limitations from the outset, from the very beginning of their martial arts journey. Take into consideration that from a social level, most of us have our interactions with people over a dang smartphone. And that doesn't really prepare you for having a room full of strangers who are latching onto you and doing all of these strange moves. The way I can develop a student's comfortable level before exposing them to a role is through a game. And these games can really develop some key techniques and give us an idea of how to do things before we go into our role. So what I'm arguing for is, instead of starting out beginning students with a live scenario in the form of a role where there is very little limitations on what these two people can do, I feel that an alternative would be to develop their skills in a game with a more comfortable goal in mind at first. And this is also student dependent. So if the student is already supremely comfortable with how the class is going thus far, then this might not be necessary. But if I'm having a student struggling and not seeming as comfortable, then I might present them with a game instead in order to help them grow to the level necessary to roll. Hi, so for our game we are going to review, this will be a game done from the standing position. And all I would need is 2 little clips. So I'm using little clips from a clothing line. And where I'm going to attach these clips is I'll be attaching it, if I was wearing my martial arts uniform, I'll be attaching it into my collar like this. But as I am not, I'm just going to simulate it by tucking it into my, attaching it to my shirt. Just like this. So, the other clip would be on my partner, and it would be on his shoulder as well. Now the object is for me to be in my little stance, and what I'm doing is I'm trying to go after my partner's clip with grabs. I'm trying to grab my partner's clip, and I'm also trying to defend my own. This game I got from Matt Diaquinta's Judo Games for Kids, and I really love it because it would be a very great introductory game for just beginning students in general. And one thing we should consider is that this is a standing game, and with our standing martial arts, they can be way more dangerous than our ground games. So if I were just starting off beginning students in the standing scenario, this event might last 30 seconds, for instance. One of them might just get taken down, and potentially, because there's no limitations, injuries can happen as well. But with this game, I can make sure that they're honing in on key concepts. One of these concepts is that they are working from their fighting stance. So they're working their movements around, they're working on keeping one hand covering this critical area of not getting their clip snatched, and they're working on attacking for someone else's. Another one is that I'm working blocking techniques. So if my partner were looking to establish a grip on my clip, I can get my arm in the way and intercept. Another skill I can be developing is my parrying. So if they are going for my clip, I can parry their hands out of the way and divert what they're throwing at me. Maybe when I do my parry, I can also go and reach for their own. So it's kind of like a combination. So our next one is from our attacking perspective. So if I'm here and I'm going for my partner's clip, I can be working on feints. So if I make my attack really known to my partner, that'll increase their odds of making a block, making a parry, or just getting out of the way. But if I feint at them once and then try to make my grip, it might increase my chances of success. So these have been my thoughts on this game. But when it comes to all games, even then, they are not without risks. Now when it comes to the risks here, when I am both looking for my partner's grip and defending their attempts on my own, I might take a hand to the eye, unfortunately. This can be mitigated through the use of safety goggles, if you want to go that route. Another risk of this particular game is because I'm in my fighting stance and working from this position, a beginning student might not be used to taking their fighting stance at all. And as they are working their movements, trying to get these things down, they might trip and fall. But that is just something that happens with martial arts. And with these games in general, they're going to be much safer than just opening up in a rolling scenario for these students. But anyways, these have been my thoughts on this subject, and I hope you have enjoyed watching this content, and please consider liking and subscribing for more. But thanks so much and take care.